What are your feelings about Nigel Farage right now?
I think it's just important to take a little trip down memory lane now that it seems like quite a few Tory MPs are saying, oh, we'd love Nigel to join the party now that he's come third in a reality TV show. We'd love him to be the Home Secretary, one of them said, which is very interesting. I think we just need to remember a few things about Nigel Farage.
Why did David Cameron then yield to the impulse against the wishes of people like George Osborne to have that referendum? Nigel Farage was very prominent at that time, as you know, and they seem to be appealing to quite a lot of Conservative voters and potential Conservative voters. You just don't buy that David Cameron was spooked into this by Farage and what he was doing.
Look, I can't say I've discussed this with Lord Cameron of Chipping Norton, but I don't imagine he's the kind of person who was actually having sleepless nights about Nigel Farage.
All of the major political parties promised a referendum on the European Constitution. Why does this matter? Why do we need a referendum, and why do we need one now? First, why this matters. The European Constitution, now called the Lisbon Treaty, includes a massive transfer of powers from the nation states of Europe to Brussels. It ends our veto, our right to say no, in about 60 areas. It sets up a permanent president of the European Union, a foreign minister, a diplomatic service. It gives the European Union the right to sign treaties and to pass new treaties, new constitutions, without asking us again, the people of Europe. Why do we need a referendum? Well, I think when our Parliament is giving up powers, is passing powers to someone else, they should ask us first, the people, in a referendum.
It doesn't really fit with what I understand his character to be. I imagine he found it quite irritating. And I imagine he found that wing of the Conservative Party, which Farage does appeal to, there's no doubt about that. You know, I think quite nostalgic part of the Conservative Party.
Well, it's been a great week. It's been a great week for everyone. Even Boris made it all the way to Tuesday afternoon before he put his foot in it. I know Boris is often saying things that we don't all agree with, but he has been doing an amazing job getting around our colleges and universities and building up our support. And do you know something? This is the Conservative Party. This isn't New Labour. We don't mind if people go off message. We love it, actually.
But I don't think he was really worried about Farage. I think if he'd been truly worried about Farage, and if none of those things I'd said about polling were true, then yeah, he may have actually been thinking about Farage. But it really has become quite overblown. And now Farage has been an I'm a celebrity. Farage was at Conservative Party conference where he was very, very popular with the sort of delegates and activists there.
Yes.
We've kind of decided to attribute Brexit to Nigel Farage when, Boris Johnson was far more consequential. He was the most popular politician in the country at that time. If he hadn't joined the Leave campaign, then there's almost no way it would have happened.
Yeah.
So now this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for us to take back control of this country. Can you hear me at the back? Yeah! Because the organisation that we belong to now, the European Union, has changed out of all recognition from what we signed up to in 1972. And if we vote Leave on June the 23rd, we can take back control of £350 million a week and spend on our priorities here in this country, including on the National Health Service. We can take back control of our immigration system. In bunches of more than 2 or 3 bananas. You cannot sell bananas with abnormal curvature of the fingers. Why should they tell us? Why should they tell us how powerful our vacuum cleaners should be? Why should they tell us how powerful our hairdryers should be?
Well, he looks like a very, very successful sort of Florida-based dentist now. He's got an amazing tan. His teeth look good. He looks very healthy. And he's now the man who delivered Brexit. But it's just not true. Oh, and I said, are you planning on going back to frontline politics? And he said, look at me. Do I look like I want to? And I thought, no, you look like you want to have 15 gin and tonics after a few rounds of golf. But having said that, the Conservative Party now is so weak. It's tearing itself apart in ways that are reminiscent of the 2018-2019 period, that maybe he will go back into politics. But if you look at the last time he was in frontline politics, he wasn't that popular. So he really shouldn't spook someone like Rishi Sunak. But people overreact to everything, don't they? So I imagine they will get spooked by it this time.
Really
There has always been a whiff of cordite about Farage, the smell of danger. And today, the man who lit the touch paper to set off the biggest political explosion of modern times showed no hint of remorse.
But you have put a massive great bomb beneath the British economy, possibly even British society, haven't you?
Some, Farage is a loose cannon, a political general who has doomed today's youth.
Your wife is German, your children are half German. Do they not say to you, you've taken away our right to live and work wherever we want in this continent? I mean, that's what people are saying in the UK, that something has been taken away from them at the moment when you say the country has been taken back.
Which is that he's never been a particularly popular populist. He's never been a particularly skillful politician. And for all his undoubted charisma and his stamina, in doing soapbox stuff for leaving the EU for a few decades, I think the negatives about Farage definitely outweigh the positives as far as the Conservative Party is concerned. So I wrote the column about that. The referendum, there was something in polling called the Farage paradox. So whenever UKIP rose in the polls, and support for Farage rose in the polls, support for leaving the EU went down. If you look at the personal popularity ratings of any of the major leaders in 2016, of any of the major leaders of political parties, you'll see that Farage was the least popular among the general public. Less popular than Jeremy Corbyn, who wasn't exactly everybody's favourite Islington Gandhi. And I think that Farage really benefited from a zeitgeist that you can see at play in Europe at that time. You can see it in America at that time. It's still going on. And I think Farage could easily have been replaced by, say, Sir James Goldsmith, if he had lived. Robert Kilroy Silk might have played the role that Farage had played. But he was actually a drag on the movement to leave the EU. He maybe forced the issue. But if you look at stuff that Cameron Osborne was saying before the referendum, Cameron says in his memoirs, for instance, that Farage wasn't part of his thinking for Farage has managed to build up this mystique as the man who made Brexit happen. And it is just frankly not true.